Farmers in India are in such a bad shape with very poor incomes. Uh, it is very natural in a contest between government and so many farmers. It does give the impression that government is out to do something bad and farmers are very fiercely protesting. Government must be wrong and farmers must be right. But in this present case of farmers' protest, there are very serious reasons to think that government is right, hugely right, and farmers are hugely wrong. It does not matter how many farmers have gathered and how many political parties support. Let us discuss the issue. And the issue is very crucial. And what the government is suggesting is not just good, but something which is hugely positive, a game changer, the thing that the agriculture needs now, and it always needed this. But why most people don't understand is a different issue. So let us make certain points clear. So first point, the first misconception that people have is that government through MSP, through subsidies, is helping farmers. I am saying that through these policies it is helping farmers may be a misconception. How will that be a misconception? It is not that by itself this is not helpful to the farmers, but government is also doing something which contradicts this, and that also is taken as one desirable goal of political and economic system, that is food security. Through food security, PDS operations, FCI, and to make the food available at lower prices, government not only stocks, but it does everything to keep the prices down. Government is helping through MSPs and subsidies. But at the same time, it is doing everything to keep the prices down. Tell me, if government targets the products of certain individuals or organizations, says that we will do everything to keep your prices down, will producers gain? Will cell phone operators gain? Cell phone sellers, mobile companies gain? Hotels, schools, anything. So, government is helping on one hand, apparently, but using all its institutions to keep the prices down of the farmers. Which means, on net, government is not actually helping. And this, I have thought about it intuitively and qualitatively. But we need to understand mathematically the impact. One economist I know, Ashok Gulati, says farmer is net taxed. With all this so-called help from the government, he is net taxed. How is he taxed? It is because by suppressing the pricing system. So farmers are getting raw deal. On the whole. Why is it like that? Because in the name of food security, prices are down, and food security is important for so-called principle of socialism. But strangely, you are affecting the farmers' incomes to run socialism. Socialism is expected to take the income from the rich and give to the poor. But the strange kind of socialism we are following is taking the income of the poor and helping all others, middle classes and others. So I would say farmers were expected to finance socialism, which is very, very unfair. Let the beneficiaries of the system finance socialism in terms of creating a better political system. But why should poor farmers be? So the idea that the government has been helping farmers and now what happens if it doesn't help, which is central to the debate, is wrong. Farmers are net taxed and this has to be changed. And to stop this net taxing, what one has to do is to help the farmers realize the price that they deserve. Okay, that is the point. Now, come to what the laws are proposing. Next, another misconception is that farm laws in 2020, recent 3 laws, they bring privatization. they bring privatization is again strangely a misconception, because privatization was there before. 90% of the produce is going to the private players only. So it is not that agricultural market is opened for the private sector now. It was already in the private sector only. Farmers belong to private sector. Uh, Buyers, be it consumers or the intermediaries, belong to the private sector. So what is proposed is not privatization of agriculture. But then why this issue of privatization is being talked about? What is going on now is, as of now, farmers are selling to small private players. Why are these people small? Because trade restrictions. Because of trade restrictions, big players did not enter the market. So small people are doing it at a small level. Interstate trade restrictions, export restrictions, storing restrictions, all kinds of things. These are all the ways by which the prices are kept down in the name of food security. But now, bills propose remove those restrictions and let big players enter, big players with deep markets, so that they can enter into contracts with the farmers even before the production. Yes, only big players can do that. And next, they can store cold storage systems. Perishability of agricultural product is one very important thing why agricultural prices are low. And they are perishable because inadequate storing systems. And because of inadequate storing, conversion into higher value added products also becomes difficult. So all this calls for huge investment. Contracts, something like future, that we will buy at this price later. You supply now, produce this, we will store, and then access to global markets. Okay. So farm laws are facilitating the entry of big players with investment, access to global markets, storing facilities, which means the farmers who are selling to the small players will now be in a position to sell to bigger players, which means investment will flow to agriculture, technology will flow to agriculture, skill sets will flow to agriculture, and this precisely is what is needed. to enable farmers realize the prices of their products. Then here, some hopelessly outdated debate on capitalism versus socialism. One journalist and writer, Sainath, of course, he's a leader of many misleading arguments. Arguments are something like this. He even takes the examples of health and education. Take health or education. Because private schools are there, government schools suffered. Because of private schools, educational inequalities increased. Elite stopped sending to government schools declined, private schools improved. This happened and this should not have happened. But the question is, what is an alternative? I would say alternative is to strengthen the government and not to ban private schools. You can't argue that private schools should not be allowed because it will affect government schools. The same thing is about private hospitals. You can't say government hospital will be affected once there are private hospitals. Same thing about mobile companies or internet. You can't say BSNL will be affected if you allow others. Or Indian Airlines will be affected if they are private. And that leads to inequalities. That is a very, very wrong argument. So many sectors are benefited by the competition, by the private. So middle classes, elite are benefited by capitalism and they want socialism to the farmers. It is unfair. Capitalism is an extraordinary system where human energy is channelized. People may call it greed, but that is how wealth is generated. Incomes grew. But is capitalism perfect? No. To improve capitalism is the function of the state. How did we try to handle these things here? Regulation, telecom regulation, all kinds of regulatory bodies. State is there to monitor the market, to avoid certain monopolistic practices, to ensure contracts are fulfilled, create competition, and more importantly, now with IT, it is much easier providing information on market all over India. And then certain organizations, FPOs, can be used for this purpose. And regulatory bodies can be created. And that is where we need to think. It is not about how to stop the private players, but how do you monitor, encourage the market. So let the farmers be benefited from the market like the way everybody else is benefited. That is what economic reforms are about from 1991 onwards. Farmers cannot be deprived of this power of capitalism. So, as the bill says, it is not that there is no governmental support, but it is that private mandis will be there, APMC mandis will be there, MSP will be there. But let this be the primary source of profit to the farmer, and this as an alternative, last alternative. In fact, that is what MSP is supposed for, minimum support prices. We will give support when the market is failing, but we ended up destroying the market, by which government became the first buyer. It was expected to be the last buyer in case market is failing, but market is destroyed so comprehensively, in the sense that there are number of players are there, but there is no efficiency. So create a system by which the farmers are helped from their own strength. Okay. And when the market is not delivering the job, there is government. And that is the proper function of the government, to take care of the vulnerable, to see that market is doing its job. But the first task of the government is to ensure that the market does the job, and where it is failing, the state should intervene. Not that destroy the market and then give all kinds of things and say we are support. It's not true. That's not right. Okay. So I am saying, on a purely economic and commercial sense, that the farmers are net taxed, unfair, give market help, by which farmers will benefit. And I am doing this not from food security point of view, but from farmers' incomes, because that is the main argument now. It is not argued that what happens to food security. People are arguing that farmers' incomes will come down. This is not true. Farmers' incomes will go up. And how do we ensure food security even after higher prices? These things, FCI and things will continue. But this is primarily from farmers' incomes point of view, not food security. Now, one more thing. All this is economically and commercially, but the present policies are contributing to disastrous consequences in a different sphere, that is environment. Excessive use of fertilizers, pesticides, free power, groundwater depletion. What is going on is desertification. And in Punjab, drinking water is at a very, very low level. 350 feet. At 350 feet, drinking water is available. And water table is falling at 25 to 30 centimeter per year. And what do farmers want when this is the state of affairs? What farmers are demanding now is the right to self-destruction. Nothing less than this. Punjab is on the road to desertification. This is destruction of the resources. You know, if the price is not enough, it is because the cost is high. Cost is high enough because resources are being destroyed. If water tables are going down, you need more power, more subsidy, more cost. So environmentally it is self-destructive. So what is going on should be stopped regardless of the commercial aspect. And as they are, it is on the desertification road. And to this, climate change. Glaciers are melting. The support from rivers won't be there because all rivers are going to join the ocean soon. No more rivers. Droughts. So, the present way to do agriculture is simply meaningless. What is going on should be stopped for purely ecological reasons, no matter what the commercial aspect is. And we have seen commercially what is going on is not good. So, because of this ecological destruction, to the working of capitalism, we will add one more thing, that is ecological pricing. Ecological pricing is pricing that reflects the true cost. If you are polluting, more price. If you are doing something good, subsidy. So subsidies and taxes should be managed, fiscal policy should be managed in such a way that you contribute to greater good and over long term, and particularly in the context of climate change. So managing capitalism now is not only the competition, ensuring competition between the big players. In fact, the so-called big players also is big players are not really coming from Mars. Farmers will become enterprising and they will join these big players in variety of capabilities. It's a farmers can be very enterprising. Industrialists in India have come from farming at one time. So the present day farmers will not remain as farmers. So that's a different issue. But now we are saying the capitalism in the 21st century should take into consideration the ecological pricing, not simply managing competition between the players. So we need to think in terms of how to manage capitalism in a way that creates a just society, not um, avoiding capitalism, because capitalism is one of the rare and efficient economic organization that 20th century world has found and India itself discovered. This should spread to agriculture. And when it spreads to agriculture, because People at lower level of income are included here. Capitalism now will contribute to inclusive growth. If market is created only at higher levels of income and luxury products, then it is exclusive growth. If the market is created at lower levels with state support, and if poorer people are involved in getting benefit from capitalism, it contributes to inclusive growth, and India's growth story will change. So it is time that people should think, leaving their prejudices, the merit of the government's arguments. And I would say, for a habitual supporter of Narendra Modi government, it calls for courage to criticize the government. But for a habitual critic of Narendra Modi government, it equally calls for courage to appreciate it and say, yes, we are with you. Do your best. It is true, the government did not hand it. That was not the way to pass the bill. It mishanded. The procedure was wrong. What it is doing is wrong. But let us separate the method from the substance. And let us support the substance and discuss how this should be carried out with the participation, consensus, and compensating the immediate losses in a democratic way. This, I believe, is the duty of every citizen. Critic of Narendra Modi's government or a supporter of government.